and some things that should not have been forgotten were lost.
Welcome back, friends, to the Quenta Accords. Today, we're going to be talking about the two lamps that stood upon pillars in the far north and south of the world. During the spring of Arda, in the days before days, there were two great shimmering lights emanating from two vessels. Acting like lamps, they were wrought by Aule at the request of Yavanna. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, when in doubt, always follow your nose. In the north, there was great Illuin, mounted on the massive ice pillar of Helkar. It shone a sky blue light. And in the south, there was great Ormal, mounted on the titanic ice pillar of Ringil. It shone a golden light. The lamps were filled with light by Varda and hallowed by Manwë, and they stood upon two great pillars, taller than any mountains we see today. Before the making of the two trees, Middle-earth was symmetrical in that the two lamps mingled their light upon the center, where Yavanna's vegetation was richer. There the Valar made their first habitation upon the island of Almaren, in the center of the Great Lake. It's in the fine details I have based my theory that Illuin is in fact Uranus, and Ormal is Neptune. Not only are Uranus and Neptune our farthest planets from Earth, but they are also made of ice and are frequently called ice giants. What can you imagine in your mind in the days before days on our Earth emitted two such great lights upon pillars of ice? And how can Tolkien not be referring to our North Pole and South Pole? Are our two poles not pillars? If you've read the Silmarillion, you should well know that the two trees follow the two lamps, and there you have the gas giants of Saturn and Jupiter.
History became legend. Legend became myth.
From the Silmarillion, the Quenta Silmarillion, Chapter 1 of the Beginning of Days. In that time the Valar brought order to the seas, and the lands, and the mountains, and Yavanna planted at last the seeds that she had long devised. And since, when the fires were subdued, or buried beneath primeval hills, there was need of light, Aule, at the prayer of Yavanna, brought two mighty lamps for the lighting of Middle-earth, which he had built amid the encircling seas. Then Varda filled the lamps, and Manwë hallowed them, and the Valar set them upon high pillars, more lofty far than any mountains of the later days. One lamp they raised near to the north of Middle-earth, and it was named Illuin. And the other was raised in the south, and it was named Ormal. And the light of the lamps of the Valar flowed out over the earth, so that all was lit, as it were, in a changeless day. But wealth there was of Yavanna's imagining, and nowhere more rich than in the midmost parts of the earth, where the light of both the lamps met and blended. And there upon the isle of Almaren, in the great lake, was the first dwelling of the Valar, when all things were young, and new made green was yet a marvel in the eyes of the makers, and they were long content. Then the Valar knew indeed that Melkor was at work again, and they sought for his hiding place. But Melkor, trusting in the strength of Utumno and the might of his servants, came forth suddenly to war, and struck the first blow ere the Valar were prepared, and he assailed the lights of Illuin and Ormal, and cast down their pillars and broke their lamps. Illuin comes from Quenya as sky blue. Uranus is famous for its brilliant sky blue, due to its atmosphere containing methane gas. Most of the ice giant is made of water, ammonia, and methane in a supercritical phase of matter, which astronomy calls ice, or volatiles. Just as Varda filled the lamps with light, it remains in theory that Illuin and Luinil are one and the same lamp and star. Luinil comes from Quenya as blue star, and is mentioned in the Silmarillion, Chapter 3, of the coming of the elves and the captivity of Melkor. Wherefore she whose name out of the deeps of time and the labors of Ea was Tintale, the Kindler, was called after by the elves Elantari, Queen of the Stars. Carnil and Luinil, Nénar and Lumbar, Alcarinkie and Elamare she wrought in that time. Delving deeper into the theory, when Illuin Luinil gleamed with light, it was as alive as ever, and was known as Gilim, the only ice or frost giant to grace Tolkien's Legendarium. His name comes from Gnomish as winter. His place of residence was Adoman, meaning outside Aman and Quenya. This place was north of Aman, beside the Helcaraxe grinding ice, which further supports this theory. It is from the New Notion Club archives that I stumbled across the statement he sired the first ice giants in Middle-earth. His brothers submitted to the will of Morgoth and became ice demons, primordial ice trolls cut from the glaciers. Gilim, however, refused to serve any lord and became the lone embodiment of the eternal cold. If giants are but mountains, as they are classically known in mythology, and Gilim is the lone embodiment of the eternal cold of ice giants, then it is without a doubt he represents the numerous glaciers spanning across the north and south of our world. Because of the New Notion Club archives, I was able to pinpoint the proposed ice trolls in Tolkien Legendarium, and relate them to the Hyperboreads in Greek mythology. They are the sons of Boreas Baraz Karadras and Orathia Nuri of Vienna. Oddly enough, one of them is named Kalais, which resembles Gilim's name. Kalais comes from ancient Greek as turquoise. What color is our Illuin Gilim? Sky blue, blue, and now turquoise. Though the fauna shines sky blue, the spirit of Illuin Gilim is Koalemus, the spirit of stupidity. It can further be defined in ancient Greek as stupidity, stupid fellow, foolishness, booby, and blockhead. His name is derived from the words koio and aleos, meaning to hear foolishness. In conclusion, it was neither good nor evil that Gilim ascended to the stars from Illuin to Luinil. A glacier may be a cold, unforgiving obstacle upon the lands of Arda, but it also provides much needed meltwater for the benefit of Earth. It's a blockhead, stupid blockheads upon the surface of Earth and the stars of our solar system. Ormal comes from Quenya as high gold. To this date, I haven't found any supporting evidence that Neptune once looked gold. Some well-known facts about Neptune are, it is the farthest planet from the Sun, if you exclude the dwarf planet of Pluto. Similar to its fellow ice giant Uranus, Neptune contains methane in its atmosphere that gives off its deep blue light. Going back to chapter 3 of the Silmarillion, Nénar is named as one of the stars of Arda filled with light. Nénar comes from Quenya as water high. And so it can be theorized, because it resembles water, it could be our planet of Neptune high in the sky, as Neptune is the god of the sea, and the planet resembles the deep blue of the ocean. Having high in the name doesn't hurt also, in the theory that Ormal is indeed Nénar. When Ormal Nénar gave off its brilliant golden light, it was also alive, the same as Gilim the frost giant of the north. His name was Artano, an alternate name of the great servant of Morgoth, Sauron. Artano comes from Quenya as High Smith, and so it continues the trend in being high with Ormal and Nénar. If Gilim represents the glaciers of Earth, then Artano is the volcanoes, the High Smith that wrought the disastrous fire giants that caused mayhem in the days before days. Since Ormal was located in the south, then so Artano will be found there, and Antarctica is wrought with many volcanoes. Finding the god of volcanism in Greek mythology wasn't too hard, but finding a linguistic match, we have to take a deeper look. Hêphaistos is the infant god of smiths, fire, and metalworking, while his Roman equivalent is Vulcan, conveying his volcanic archetype. His fall from Olympus Aule is evidence enough that this is Sauron and his treacherous change of allegiance from Aule to Morgoth. But as always, the main supporting evidence is a linguistic match to Ormal and specifically Nénar. Among the epithets of Hêphaistos, Zeus, and among the names of the great primordial Aurea mountains is Oros Aitna, a volcano located in Sicily. Oros Aitna Aitho comes from ancient Greek as Mount Ignite, Mount Kindle, Mount Light, and Mount Burn. So there's no doubt Aitna is describing the function of a burning mountain that ancient Greeks called volcanoes. Hephaestus holds the stories of volcanoes, but calling a mountain spitting fire and smoke, the ancient Greeks would call it Aitna. And the volcano in Sicily was just one example of a volcano they would come across, for the Aitnas span the earth, just as the glaciers did so for Gilim. Now that we have connected volcanoes to Ormal Nénar Aitna, the name Ormal makes some sense in high gold, as volcanoes erupt high plumes of golden lava in the air. Not only that, but the smoke these natural disasters emit choke the atmosphere, and so it's fitting that Ait, the spirit of delusion and blind folly, is the spirit of Artano and Hephaestos. Similar to Hephaestos, Ait was hurled from Olympus Aule because he blinded Zeus to Hera's trickery in denying Heracles' birthright. Sounds like Zeus couldn't handle the smoke. If Greek mythology doesn't convince you that the lamp of Illuin came from a massive glacier in the north, and the lamp of Ormal came from a massive volcano in the south, then look no further to Norse mythology and its endearing creation of the world. From Niflheim's cold and dark realm dripped a venomous rime that froze into ice upon the empty Ginnungagap. Ginnungagap is a vast primordial void that existed prior to the creation of the universe. It can be perceived as chaos in Greek mythology and an ungoliant in Tolkien Legendarium. Beneath Ginnungagap burned the hot and glowing realm of Muspelheim. Its sparks shot up and mingled with the ice in the void to create the primordial frost giant of Ymir. And Ymir isn't just some ordinary giant, he is the first, the one, Eru in Tolkien Legendarium, or Orgelmir, as known to the frost giants, Eru Ilu Vatar. And thus ends my brash attempt to summarize the Norse Cosmogony story. I shall create another video after this one to better explain the Norse view in the Years of the Lambs, using the Prose Edda as a direct source by Snorri Sturluson, or whom I like to call Aristor, the lore master of Rivendell. And so that's the Quenta of the two lamps, Illuin and Ormal, and the two ice giants of Uranus and Neptune. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video, take an egg from the cold and dark realm of the fridge you call Niflheim, place it on the pan you call Ginnungagap, overtop the burner you call Muspelheim, cook the egg. You shall now call said egg Ymir, or Eru, and it shall be the universe. If you're brave, poke at the yolk you call Melkor, and watch the story of Ea unfold its history.
Down from the door